my goodness, you guys. I can't believe all the produce that I have coming out of my ears. I didn't go to the garden yesterday because I was busy doing other things, and I thought, what difference is one day going to make? So I went out this morning to, after my chores, to see what we have. Oh, let me see. Let me show you what is hidden. This is just Swiss chard, which I'm going to get washed up and use for salad greens. And then under there we have 3 yellow squash, which I'm glad there wasn't more because I have a bowl full down there that I'm going to probably end up having to give to the chickens because I don't know what else to do with it. And then we've got collards here, which those are going to go out to the chickens. I don't eat collards. I grow them just for my chickens. And then in this bowl, tomatoes. I don't think there's enough here yet to do anything with today, which is a good thing because I'm not going to have time. Because over here we have sweet corn, and this is just one row. This is just one row of sweet corn that we've been eating off of that row for a couple of days. But I'm having the kids shuck all of this, and we'll see how much is there, and I probably send Travis out to pick some more. Because if I'm going to heat up the house to process corn, I'd rather do it, get several bags in the freezer. But this, look at this. Other thing, how did I miss the zucchini? Look at this thing. This is too big to eat, but I'm going to have Olivia shred it up and bag it up in 4-cup bags and stick in the freezer for muffins and cakes and all of that stuff. But the cucumbers, look at the cucumbers. My sink is almost full, and this bowl is full. It just has a few of the last little bits of the onions that were in the garden. I went ahead and picked them today. I probably have 15 pounds of cucumbers. Now some of them are too big for pickles, like this one is too big for pickles, but I'm going to sort them and I'm going to weigh them, and I'm going to have to do at least 2 batches of pickles today, and then the rest of the cucumbers we'll either eat or I will take them to church on Sunday to give away to my friends at church. But all of this produce is not what this video is about today. So let me get this stuff kind of wrangled in one spot, and I'll bring you back and I will show you what today's video is actually going to be about. Oh, and to top it all off, I need to bake bread today. My husband only has 1 slice left. Oh boy. Maybe I'll just have my husband get some pizza for the family for dinner tonight because I'm going to be too tired to cook. Alright, so for the real reason for my video today is I am going to share with you one of my favorite Trim Healthy Mama recipes. It is called Muffin in a Mug, and it truly is a decadent dessert. It can be used as a breakfast, a snack. I mean, it's just, when you eat this muffin in the mug, you don't feel deprived at all. In fact, I have to keep reminding myself when I'm eating it that it's good for me and that the calories don't matter, and as long as I have eaten the correct fuel source with it, then all's good. The muffin in the mug is a S snack or meal, okay? And it's very, very simple. And what I do is I make up a bunch of the mix ahead of time, and I put them in these baggies, and it just has the dry ingredients in the bag. And then I have written down the wet ingredients that you add to it. Now, I've made this so many times, I pretty much have the wet ingredients memorized. But I'm going to show you the dry ingredients, and then I'm going to show you how to actually make one of the muffins in a mug. Okay? So the first thing you're going to need is baking powder. And I always use the aluminum free. And you're only going to need a half a teaspoon. See, I have to remind myself of the dry ingredients. I don't have those memorized, but the wet ingredients I do. So half a teaspoon of baking powder. goes, and I put it in this big measuring cup because it's easier to pour into the bags. Okay, so half a teaspoon of baking powder. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this aside. Kind of lost track of myself there for a minute. I forgot I wanted to actually show you how to make one. So I'm going to you just get a regular coffee mug, okay? And if you don't have a microwave, you can still do this recipe. You'll just have to put it in an oven-safe dish and bake it in the oven. So let's do this again. Half a teaspoon of baking powder right in the cup. Then this can either be a dry ingredient or a wet ingredient. I just happen to have vanilla powder, so I've been using this. Now, if you don't have vanilla powder, you can just use the liquid vanilla and add it with the wet ingredients, okay? So for this, it says 1/4 of a teaspoon of the vanilla powder makes 1 teaspoon of liquid vanilla. So this recipe calls for half a teaspoon of vanilla. So that would mean I would need 1/4 of a teaspoon, no wait, 1/8 of a teaspoon of this. So I'm just going to eyeball it. Half of 1/4 is 1/8. Then the next ingredient that you're going to need, I made this up. It's the Trim Healthy Mama Baking Blend. Basically, what it is equal parts of coconut flour, almond flour, and ground chia seeds. It's just cup for cup. Because the recipe calls for 1 tablespoon of coconut flour, 1 tablespoon of ground almond flour, and 1 tablespoon of ground chia seeds. And I got tired of pulling all of my, ingredients out just to get a little bit out. So I just took a big mason jar, a ball jar, canning jar, and I made up a bunch of this baking blend, just cup for cup. So for this, you're going to need 3 tablespoons of this baking blend. If you don't, like I said, if you don't have the baking blend already made up, it's 1 tablespoon coconut flour, which you can find at Walmart these days. It's pretty easy to find. 1 teaspoon of ground chia seeds. You want the ground ones, not the whole ones. And that's pretty easy to find too. And then ground like almond flour, 1 teaspoon, or tablespoon, I'm sorry. Have I been saying teaspoon? I meant tablespoon. If I've been saying it wrong, it's tablespoon. I'll have the recipe in the description box below. The most expensive ingredient in this is the almond flour, but it doesn't take much, so you wouldn't have to buy a huge bag of it. Okay, so we've got 3 tablespoons of that in here. Now, in my video where I talked about Trim Healthy Mama, I talked about how I have been successful with this program using coconut sugar. And in an S setting, you want to only use 1 tablespoon of coconut sugar. So that's what I've got here is my coconut sugar. And we've had so much humidity, it's a little bit clumpy. So I'm going to break it up a bit. And I'm going to add 1 tablespoon. If you are able to use the other sweeteners, the erythritol and those, it's 2 teaspoons of sweet blend that you can only get through the Trim Healthy Mama website, or 1 tablespoon of Truvia or xylitol. So if you can use any of those artificial sweeteners, that's what it is. 1 tablespoon of Truvia or xylitol. And I misspoke, they're not artificial sweeteners, they're natural sweeteners, they're just calorie-free or low-calorie. Okay, so let me see if I have all the dry ingredients in here now. I'm checking my recipe. Nope, the most important ingredient I forgot is the cocoa powder. And you're going to want to put 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder. You can use any cocoa powder you like, but my personal favorite is the Hershey's Special Dark. It makes everything extra just decadent, in my opinion. So 1 tablespoon goes in. And the one last ingredient that I add that is not technically on the Trim Healthy Mama program, which it could be if I was able to find what the correct product, is some chocolate chips. I put just a little tiny, like that much, tablespoon maybe, I throw those in. Now I just get the Hershey's special, no, I get the organic special dark chocolate chips. The chocolate chips and chocolate that are approved by Trim Healthy Mama are the Lily's, I believe it's called, and it's sweetened with stevia. And I would use those if I could, number one, find them, and if number two, they weren't $6 a bag. I looked online and found them, and they were like $6 a bag, and I'm like, you know what? A tablespoon of regular dark chocolate chips is not gonna ruin my weight loss goals. So that's what I have in the cup so far, is the dry ingredients. Now if I was making this to put in my bag, I would just, dump all the dry ingredients in here, and then when I was ready to make a muffin, I would dump it in the cup and then add the wet ingredients. So now I'm going to go ahead and just make this up for you now and show you what it looks like, okay? So to the dry ingredients, it's really simple. You add 1 egg, 1 tablespoon of water, 1 tablespoon of milk, any kind of milk. You can use cow's milk, nut milk, whatever you want to do, and 1 tablespoon of coconut oil. Now, for those of you who cannot eat eggs, I have a niece, hi Caitlin, she watches my videos, and she cannot eat eggs. You can substitute eggs by taking ground flax and adding it to water. Now, how you substitute an egg for flax is you do this. You take 1 tablespoon of flaxseed. It has to be ground flaxseed. You can either buy them whole and grind them in a coffee grinder, or you can buy them already ground. 1 tablespoon of ground flax and 3 tablespoons of water. You just put them in a small container and whisk them until the flax seed starts to get gelatinous. And that is a perfect substitute for 1 egg. So if you have an issue with eggs, just do that. So instead of adding an egg to this, you would add the flax mixture. But I don't have a problem with eggs in moderation. I can't sit down and eat a fried egg or scrambled eggs, but I can eat eggs in things. So I'm going to go ahead and use eggs. So I have 1 egg, and as always, because it's a farm-raised egg, I crack it in a separate bowl. You just want to do that to make sure there's, nothing nasty going on, because sometimes home-raised eggs have surprises in them. And then you add 1 tablespoon of water, 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, I'm using a separate, a different measuring spoon because I don't want to have to wash my Pioneer Woman ones so much. So we have 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, and then 1 tablespoon of the milk of your choice. My particular favorite is cashew milk. Give it a shake real quick. Woo! There we go. Got it all in the cup. Then what you do is you just take a spoon or a fork, or in my case I'm using this little mini spatula, and you just stir this stuff like crazy. And at first you're going to think it's too watery, but that coconut flour, it takes a few seconds for it to rehydrate, and it really does suck up a lot of the moisture. Plus, you don't want it too dry to start with, because then your finished product is kind of dry and unappetizing. So you want it a little bit on the moisture side. You want to make sure it's mixed well, because you don't want any clumps of anything dry, and you don't want any clumps of egg that's not thoroughly mixed, because then, you know, there's nothing worse than eating something and finding a big old chunk of cooked egg in your product, okay? So once this is completely mixed well, you just put it in your microwave, and every microwave is different, but in my microwave it's 90 seconds, so a minute and a half. Cook it for a minute and a half, but test it. You know, you might want to go, you know, slower than that, because your microwave might take longer, it might take less. If you don't have a microwave, or if you don't like to use a microwave, like I said, you can put this in a oven-safe ramekin or some sort of a dish, and you bake it at 350 degrees for 12 minutes. But keep an eye on it, because cooking times vary on that as well. Honestly, I have never actually cooked it in the oven. I've always just used the microwave. So I'm going to go ahead and get this in the microwave for a minute and a half, and when it's ready to come out, I'll bring you back and show you what it looks like. Alright friends, so this is what it looks like after a minute and a half. It's absolutely perfectly done. There's no glossiness on the front top that would to say that it's not completely done. Now I do one final thing to kind of gild the lily, you might say, and it's absolutely optional. I take just a few more of the chocolate chips and I sprinkle them on top while this is still piping hot. They will melt, and then you can take a knife and just spread them out, and then it's kind of like you've frosted your cupcake, all right, or your muffin. I would wait about 20 minutes to half an hour to eat this, because otherwise it's just too hot to enjoy. Or you could not put the chocolate chips on top, let this cool for about 10 minutes, dump it out onto a cooling rack, and let it cool completely, and then you can bag it up and have it ready for the next day, or for whatever, or later, or whatever you want to do. So this is just one of my absolute favorite recipes from Trim Healthy Mama. It has nipped so many chocolate cravings in the bud. When my family is eating regular cake or eating cookies and I'm starting to feel kind of left out, I'll just whip up one of these muffins in a mug, and then I'm completely satisfied. The fat from the coconut, the ground chia, the nuts, the coconut flour, everything in it is very filling, and you feel like you've eaten a meal really after you've eaten this, okay? So I would highly, highly recommend that you give this a try. And like I said, I'll leave the full recipe in the description box below. I'm going to go ahead and make up a bunch of these in my baggies, and I store them in this Tupperware container up in my cupboard, and whenever I am having an urge for something chocolatey, I reach for my muffin in a mug. I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, give me a big thumbs up, and we'll talk to you later, friends. Bye!